What's up, everybody? Colin Sheehan here on Trust the Profits. Today we're talking about episode 1 of Race for the Crown. This is the new Netflix docuseries that drives behind the scenes of horse racing's biggest players and moments on the road to the Kentucky Derby. It's got the trainers, the owners, the horses, everything leading up to that first Saturday in May. And what I was pleasantly surprised by in this show is that it wasn't just focused on the Kentucky Derby. It actually starts the year before, covering some of the Breeders' Cup races. I'm your host, Colin Sheehan. Figuring we'll try, we don't do so well at handicapping. Hey, why not see if we have a career in being a film or a show critique? This will be a review of episode 1, which I just finished today. It's 6 episodes. Throw in the comments if you've watched it, if you liked it. I'll be interested to hear your feedback. To be honest with you up front, I'm a snob when it comes to this stuff for the perceived degeneracy of the sport. The opposite of what you consider a snob. I'm the type of person that likes that old school side of racing, the grinders, the lifers, the folks who grew up going to the track with their parents, learning the game that way. That's my world. I don't tune in to NBC and CNBC and all the big networks when they're covering the races. And I know that's a little maybe the opposite of what you might expect, especially around work when people have it on the TV. They know me as a horse racing fan, and I kind of walk right by it. That's because my world is right here on a channel like Trust the Profits, listening to the Steve Bick Show, The Wolf of Oaklawn, reading Matt DeSantis's notes, talking to all of you in the comments section. I'm not exactly the target audience for champagne and the fascinator coverage and the influencers saying riders up. That once a year crowd that tunes in for the big races is not where I go. And I figured that an show like this was what was going to be the spotlight. So I came into the series a little skeptical. They opened really strong. The intro is awesome. It's electric. It gets you pumped up. They have high energy, quick cuts, music, the hooves, the starting gate, the crew, the close-ups. They do an excellent job with it. The very next shot out of the open is this. The glam of Miami, the glam owner in Miami with a fridge full of 36 bottles of champagne. And I immediately thought, here we go again. Right back to more, what we're accustomed to seeing on the NBC coverage. And don't get me wrong, I understand that we need the owners. They are an integral part of this game, especially the ones that are spending the big bucks. They're crucial to the sport. And that shot of Miami and the Ferrari tan bed of owner Michael Averoni. But as someone who's been very weary of the mainstream portrayal of racing, it felt familiar in a not so great way. That said, credit where it's due. I got over that really quick because the stories pulled me in, and the way that this show was put together was really well done. Michael Iavaroni, easy for me to say, ends up having an exchange later in the show where he's texted asking if he wants to get in on Mage for $7 million. And he turns that down, and we all know that Mage ended up winning the Kentucky Derby. That's all on display. And the pain that he probably felt in going through that and that decision, and then coming back and ending up spending that money on Victory Avenue. And we all know what ended up happening with Victory Avenue. Those are the little stories that actually turn someone like me more interested in this type of presentation of, I call it that big network presentation. I felt for him, and I didn't expect for that. As someone that works in television, the production quality of this show, I think they really nailed it. The editing is tight. The transitions are really slick. Here's an example of one where they split the screen, showing a close-up of the water being poured over the track, close-up of the back of the tractor. They did some nice montages of different behind the scenes in the barns footage that was kind of split screen, and I thought it came across really nicely. The graphics here actually reminded me of some of the old school video games, Gallop Racer in a way. These were some of the graphics that they used. The sound design was slick, the gate noises, the hooves, the track equipment. It was very immersive. And I found myself thinking that they did a really great job, because we crave so much attention to this great sport that we love, and so much of this that we see on a daily basis and fall in love with, whether you're at the track hearing those beautiful animals breathing and running by. This shot here was one that I really thought captured it. They did a great job talking about Frankie Dtori going into the Breeders' Cup Turf, filly and mare, and this is after he won. And they just sat on this drone shot. No other horses in sight, no other humans in sight, just a jockey on a winning horse in the Breeders' Cup with the mountains in the background of Santa Anita. They sat on it really nicely. They didn't just show this and cut away. I'm just showing you a picture because I don't have the rights to obviously sit on something like that. But I really thought that they did a good job with that. I thought they did a good job with someone like Nick Luck being brought in, who is excellent. Just absolutely love listening to him. He does a great job of explaining things for people that are only tuning in once a year. But for someone like me who is familiar with Nick Luck and the way he presents material, it encaptured my attention right away. There's a pretty funny exchange here when Mike Repole shows up to Todd Pletcher's barn, and you could tell Todd was almost like, when is this guy going to go away? Here he is. How long is he going to talk for? And obviously we knows what happens with Fierceness, and winning cures all of that. And there's a nice exchange between Repole and Pletcher after they win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So, you're getting a little bit of that behind the scenes interactions that we don't necessarily get to see a ton of. By the end, I was really feeling, although right off the bat with that first shot of me saying, oh, this is just another NBC type presentation. This is not hating on NBC in any way. I understand their job and what they have to do and the audience that they serve. That's why we have Trust the Profits, to maybe attract a different audience that's not watching that NBC coverage. So I don't want this to be taken as me attacking the NBC and what they do. It's just as a viewer and such a diehard fan of horse racing, it's not where I'm going. A quote that really stood out to me was Frankie Dtori, who's a prominent player in this first episode as they follow his retirement. And the quote he says is, "It's not me who retires, it's the sport who retires me." And that quote really hit hard with me, because in horse racing, especially for jockeys, loyalty doesn't always last. One bad ride, one new kid, one burned bridge, you're out. It can happen as quickly as that. And for him to say that he retired, understandably, we might have some other reasons why he came back. But when he said that quote, that was one that absolutely stood out to me, and Nick Luck threads that perfectly, explaining how this is a cutthroat game for riders, and maybe people that don't follow all the time maybe don't have that context. What else did I love? I loved the behind the scenes with the jockeys. You got to see some personality that you don't always see. Antonio Fresu, obviously Frankie Dtori, when he goes in to the locker room, to the jocks room for the first time, and they're joking around with each other. You don't usually see that. They did a good job capturing the nerves, the locker room vibe, the personalities like Rispoli shining through. I'd watch a whole series just of that, to be honest. Just give me all of that. When Rajiv Miraj comes on and gives his explanations for his rides on X, like, this content is so awesome. I really think they nailed the actual racing moments too. These are some shots that we're used to seeing on FanDuel, but they built up the tension really well with the music, the editing, the way that they broke down the filly and mare turf, showing some of these Dettori cam. They had jockeys behind the scenes watching the tape. I thought they did a good job of mixing in the graphic overlays. And so you're getting a really, really nice presentation of the races themselves as well. And when you tie all this together, it's a really high production value. My critiques, at least in episode 1, I hope we get into it later in episodes, is some love for the gambler, not the character, the real players, the ones who study, who grind, who form opinions based on data and talk about it with each other like we do right here. We're not just degenerates, we're the heartbeat of this game. And episode 1 didn't show that at all. I'm hoping it's coming. I don't think it is. Not that I've seen any other episodes. That's just my hunch. You can put in the comments if you think I'm going to be right on that one. Those stories matter too. So a little skeptical at the beginning. Episode 1 has won me over. It's sharp. It's cinematic. It's most importantly respects the sport. It's accurate. And I'm all in and can't wait to dive in and watch episode 2. I'll do that tonight, and we'll have another review for you tomorrow. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And if there's anything you think I missed, please feel free to drop it below. Until next time, good luck, everybody.